So after that, after watching Demon Slayer, I went and saw Ordinary Angels. The perfect double feature for Demon Slayer is the movie called Ordinary Angels. It's an obvious religious movie. Like I said, a very, very, very weird double feature that I did this weekend, or today. Uh, so yeah, Ordinary Angels is one of those movies, just like Driveway Dolls, where it's going to be in a long list of movies that are coming out this year. Where I've gotten trailers for this fucking thing, I swear, for like almost a year and a half. Like I'm trying to remember the first time I got a trailer for this. I was like, when the hell? I'm gonna look this up. When was this movie originally supposed to come out? I know it's been almost a year. Like it was supposed to come out a year ago. I swear to God, it was supposed to come out a year ago. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 2 years ago at this point. What was this fucking? I guess this movie got pushed back because of the actors and writers strike, and so did Drive-Away Dolls. Uh, was originally scheduled to be released on October 13th, 2023. Really? That was the last. Okay, I was completely off, but I swear to God, I've got a trailer for this like back all the way back since last year. I think since I saw like stuff like Jesus Revolution, I remember getting trailers for this, and it was one of those like I remember getting trailers for this, and then like I would stop getting trailers for it, and then like randomly would get trailers for it again. I'm like, oh yeah, that was something that was supposed to come out. It's like the movie White Bird. Good Lord, we'll talk about it one of those days, whenever that movie fuck comes out. But like, I think the longest period of time between trailers and uh when it ever, whenever it finally got released was like the New Mutants. I don't think anything will ever top that. But yeah, this was like one of those movies. Like, yeah, when the fuck is this movie ever coming out? They're like, it looks like an average, melodrama, religious movie, and yeah, it was what it is. This is a movie that I've aside from some shitty movies this over the last few weeks, and this is probably one of the better ones, one of the better movies I saw in the last few weeks, and that's saying a lot about the movies I've sat through. That's setting a low fucking bar, honestly. I don't, not saying this movie's bad, but like this movie, this movie is fun. Like I did like this movie, but it is a cheese ball of a fucking movie if I've ever seen it. It is a goddamn melodramatic, one of the most melodramatic movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I can name a lot of positives about this. The acting is really good, really, really good. Hilary Swank, it was really nice seeing her in a fucking movie again. I like Hilary Swank. She's been a great actress for years, and well, I mean, she's two-time Oscar winner. I never seen The Boys Don't Cry. I never have watched that. I'm sure that movie's pretty fucking relevant to today's culture. Um, but it's really relevant to today's culture. Um, it's amazing that the movie came out when it did, although it would be a transgender actor. So I'm sure they frown upon the woke people nowadays that bitch want to cancel everything. Probably want to cancel Hilary Swank. I don't know why the hell I haven't seen Hilary Swank in a movie. It just reminded me how good of an actress she plays. An alcoholic who's this alcoholic hairdresser whose life's in fucking shambles, and she hears about the story about a girl who mom just died, and she also the little girl also has the same disorder or illness that her mom had, and she needs a liver transplant. So she feels like she needs to help her and stuff like that. Um, Also, I thought the dad was very good. Dad was very good, even though it's fucking distracting. Alan Richardson was his name. I, if you would not have told me that that was not Chris Pratt before I saw this movie, I would have said that's Chris Pratt. I am not the. I cannot be the only one who sees Alan Richardson and says that's Chris Pratt, because that he looks like Chris Pratt, he sounds like Chris Pratt. If you would have tell a blind person who is that actor, they're probably gonna say Chris Pratt. um, like I can't be the only one. I looked it up. I'm like, I'm technically not the only one, but I'm surprised more people don't talk about that. It's like I could never. It used to, for a long time, couldn't be able to tell the difference between Amber Heard and Blake Lively, but because of the Johnny Depp trial, now I definitely can. But um, um, But yeah, like he was really good in this movie. I was like, I know I've seen him and stuff, but it's like this is the really the only one I've like the first big role I've seen him in like a long time. Um, and I was like, he's pretty good in it. I like the little girls, like the chemistry to him and the little girls. Hilary Swank. The little girls were adorable. They were hard not to like. They're your stereotypical adorable little kids you see in a movie. While I talk about, while I have all these pauses, mainly the positive that I have to say about this movie is the acting. The acting is really good. This movie is ridiculous as fucking hell. I know this movie is based off true story, but I call bullshit on a lot of this. There's some fucking liberties taken on this story. I would not. I guarantee fucking T. Now, story about the little girl and hairdresser and all the stuff that came to help her is true. That is a real part of the story. That is not a false, fabricated story. The main story is not fabricated. I get that. All right. But this movie is still has some really ridiculous bullshit, especially the last act. The last act is goddamn ridiculous. There's a part where and like I thought they were gonna do like it was gonna become ridiculous when they have a fucking tornado going off and they're living in Kentucky. Of course, there's tornadoes in Kentucky, and the little girls out yeah, eyes turn yellow while they're in the basement, and they have to rush her to the hospital during this tornado warning. And I thought, oh god, is he gonna be fighting a tornado to get his daughter to the hospital? No, they don't do that. I was surprised by that. They had some restraint, but no, they saved that fucking restraint for the fucking finale, which is one of the most ridiculous, over the top finales I've ever seen in my entire life. Because towards the end of this movie, I'm gonna spoil it for a little bit of this movie for people, but towards the end of this movie, she finally has a chance to get a liver. But in order for her to get a liver, they need to go to Omaha, which is 6 hours away. But even then they have a very small window before they give the liver to somebody else. And so, in order for them to get from Kentucky to Omaha, they need to get a private plane. And for some circumstances, they get a fucking private plane. But also at the same time, because apparently Mother Nature wants this little girl to fucking die, which I was pretty determined that was what was going on. There's a big, giant, massive snowstorm, the biggest in Kentucky history, which apparently really did happen. So that legit did happen. So I'm not. They have said that legit did happen. So I'm like, okay, I get that. Fine, whatever. And of course, like the deliver is ready right when that fucking snowstorm happens. So it has some of the most ridiculous, like over the top, like of course every fucking highway is closed because of the snowstorm. So the dad's having trouble to get there. They have like a 45 minute when he has like a fucking stopwatch, like it's fucking 24, or he keeps watching it. This like the clock is ticking, like as they needs to get to the airplane, and then they need to get a helicopter to get to the airplane at one point. But then there's a fucking blizzard going on while it's fucking ridiculous. It's really over the top ridiculous, even though the movie does at one point must have heard me because it does show like actual footage of because they have to use without getting into spoilers, they have to use too much spoilers. They have to use like the actual they have to use the news station to help them get a helicopter to get on the airplane. And that did happen. And they do actually show actual footage of it. But big even in the actual footage, they showed some inconsistencies to the fucking story from the movie. Where in the actual footage, it's broad daylight, and it's pretty clear out for what's supposed to be the worst snowstorm ever to hit in Kentucky history. And also, like it's broad daylight. It's broad daylight out when the movie is pitch black out. So I'm like, okay, I call bullshit on this story, like but I'm fine with that. But it was ridiculous. There was a many times I was like, oh come on, like it just fucking dragged the movie out so it could make it almost in 2 hours. It felt like it was just like it felt like it needed to amp up the story a little bit more, so they added more and more to the story to make it more interesting, even though it was a more enough an interesting story as it is. You didn't need to go overboard. I felt like towards the end, like it does. I still give it a. I think it's a very good movie. Well acted, like I said, really ridiculous and cheesy, but I did get into the story, and it doesn't have a happy ending. So I give it that. So give it a solid B. It's a B. It's uh and like the audience I sat for probably gave this an A plus, but I like I said, and it's not a movie, not a religious. It's definitely a religious movie, but it's from a director that done a lot of overtly religious movies, like The Case for Christ. I forget what the other movies he did, but he like this is not like a uh, in your face Christian movie. Like it doesn't hammer you over the head with its Christianity message or whatever. It's subtle enough. Like it doesn't like bash you over the head, like I said. So I like the movie. It's not like fucking some of the ridiculous trailers I got in front of this movie that were a lot of religious trailers, but including that movie The Forge. Oh my god. Maybe one day we'll talk. Hopefully, I get that movie so I can be able to talk about that trailer one day. But yeah, that's as far as the movies of this weekend. Ordinary Angels. Uh, so next week, I think the only one thing next week is coming out is Dune Part Two. Yay! I know I should be excited because it is a movie that's getting like really crazy good reviews. But I'll get into why I'm not that excited. But mainly, spoiler alert, I was not the biggest fan of the original, the first one, but I know I'm one of the few people that didn't. But like maybe this one will be good better. So I don't know. We'll see. That's as far as reviews until next week. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later.